Welcome everyone. It is a pleasure for me to present you my final project. I am going to talk about the lesson plan in action that was developed in this specialization. And, well, this is a lesson plan in action which is named Prehispanic Art Fair. My name is Elizabeth Cervera Rivera and my professor, my assessor was teacher Rocio Salgado Perea. So let's start. Well, first you need a little bit more of context about my lesson plan and my teaching context. Well, I teach in Mérida, Yucatán, at Universidad Politécnica de Yucatán. English is very important in this university because we are a BIS university. This means that we are bilingual, international, and sustainable. This school is focused on engineering careers, which are robotics, embedded systems, cybersecurity, and data. So, as technology is a very important part here, well, English is too, because subjects are taught in English. Now, so let me talk you about my student's profile. Well, as I said, English is very important here. Let me tell you why. Well, the ITEP is taken every quarter here, and students need minimum level. When they are on the first quarter, the minimum is A2. When they are in third quarter, well, the minimum is B1. And when they are in 6th grade, the minimum is B2. If they don't have this level, they are not allowed to continue in the university. So English, it is very important here. They are engineers. Well, they need English because they are engineers, and most of the study plans and things like that and programming issues they have to learn are in English. Also, the UPY has a lot of international scholarships. This means students can develop themselves professionally with international stays in Canada, in United States, and so and so. Also, now we have a new bond with a university in Germany. So English is very important for my students. That's why teachers should be prepared with it. Let me talk about my structure of the lessons and the main rationale behind them. Well, as you can see, this was a Prehispanic Art Fair. So, when I talk about this, well, this was created so students can develop their cultural awareness, and we start with an introduction. Well, in the introduction, we ask students about the previous knowledge they had with the culture and different cultures around Mexico. And what I have found there is that, well, they were very aware of some cultures like the Mayan culture, which is very popular here in Mérida, Yucatán. And we start with the introduction of Nahua's culture with a video that you can see there, the evidence. Well, this video was about how Nahua's culture is very important and is like the mother of all cultures. Also talks about the confusion between the language and the culture. Most people think that Nahuatl is the culture, but it's not. It is the language. So it was very interesting for them, and I think that they have enjoyed that a lot. Well, when we talk about speaking and listening, we in that part, I have created this speaking and listening task, which was a discussion group. They were discussing about the video they saw. They were talking about some statements that they think that are important when we talk about culture. And also, they were divided in teams, and they start with the presentation. The presentation was a very important part of this lesson plan because they start talking about the topic that they were assigned. Let me tell you that we create 4 different products. The first one was the presentation, then we had the infographic, then we have a sculptor, and there was a final presentation, which was the Prehispanic Art Fair. Well, in teams, students were divided and they were assigned with 4 topics, which were origins and how they disappeared, socioeconomic activities, art and contributions, and most important archaeological sites. So they start researching about the topic, and it was very interesting. Well, then there was the reading and writing part. Here you can see that there was, so for reading and writing, the activity that was created there was a reading that was assigned for them about origins of Nahuatl culture, and they wrote about the different statements that they were going to discuss with students, and then they start the infographic where they needed to write about the things that they thought were the most important parts about Nahuatl culture. So for this lesson plan, we can say that the first step, it was a presentation, and then we had the infographic. Let me tell you that in this infographic, students did a really good job. As you can see there, they were presenting the infographic to all the class. They had to write, they had to read, so this developed their skills in English, and I think that they did a great job. It was time for the Prehispanic Art Fair, where students needed to do an sculpture. As you can see, there is a sculptor and there is the infographic. Some of them are dressed as a Nahuatl governor, I think. It was really fun. And if you can see there is the English coordinator of our university. There's a picture of me dressed as the governor too. So I think the objectives here were accomplished well. It was the linguistic competence that was produce and interpret the spoken and written language, and the intercultural competence, which was interpret a document or event from another culture, explain and relate it, and this was accomplished here. The final product was this Prehispanic Art Fair, where students, well, they were transmitting all the knowledge they had about the culture. They were explaining the importance. Everything was done in English, which made me very proud of them because they were explaining all concepts in English. And for the assessment here, well, the assessment on this part, as you can see, there is a rubric. This rubric was divided in infographic, presentation at the Prehispanic Art Fair, the sculptor, and we have a tool to assess students which is named commonly. In this commonly, well, you need to read, and your reading comprehension is tested. So it is very important for us as a BC university that students have this reading comprehension. So that's why it is in my rubric. They need to accomplish this part. And also homeworks are important, and of course the attendance. So this rubric was, if they accomplish everything, well, they got 100%. But there are some topics that they need to accomplish here, like for example for the infographic, they need to use complex structures and present variety of language and grammar rules. For example, they were asked to talk in reported speech and narrative tenses. So if they did this correctly, well, they got all the points. And the other thing that you can see here is the digital portfolio, which was created in Teams. Teams is an app that we use a lot in this university, and it helps us as teachers to, well, to have all the homework in a very organized way. So I think that this was perfect for the project. As you can see, there is the infographic, and it is in the digital portfolio, so the teacher has access to it, and also the student. So some outcomes that I got here as a teacher, well, the first one was cultural awareness. I think that my students develop a deeper understanding and appreciation of different cultures, customs, traditions, and perspectives. They interact with individuals from diverse backgrounds, and they have learned to navigate cross-cultural situations with sensitivity and respect. Also, they got language proficiency. I think that this activity provides them opportunities to practice the 4 language skills in English, like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Through conversation, they read materials, they wrote assignments, and they enhance their vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and language. Language was practiced a lot here. Also, communication skills were there. They were like interacting with everyone, so social interaction was there. This social interaction in English allowed them to refine their communication skills. They improved their ability to express ideas clearly, understand others' viewpoints, and actively listening and engage meaningful conversations. Also, collaboration and teamwork was there because they had to work together with individuals from different backgrounds. They developed their teamwork and collaboration skills, and they learned to negotiate differences and found common ground to achieve shared goals. Empathy and cultural sensitivity. Well, I think that students here learn to adapt their communication styles and behaviors to accommodate cultural differences and to lead these improved cross-cultural relationships so they can get their goal. Global perspective, well, I think that they gain a better understanding of global issues, cross-cultural challenges, and they expand a world view of, well, they were more open-minded, and I think that everything was because they were thinking about how culture was important for everyone and how this culture had an impact in ours. Personal growth, well, I think my students became more confident in their ability to navigate intercultural interactions, overcome language barriers, and appreciate diversity. So I think that it is important to highlight that planning these activities that incorporate social interaction and the practice of the four language skills in English offer a rich and immersive learning experience. Students' expectations of these activities are that they will enhance their cultural awareness, language proficiency, communication skills, collaboration abilities, empathy, and personal growth. And all of these things will be valuable for their professional life. So I think that when we include these kind of activities, we are achieving our goals as teachers to focus on intercultural competences and the four skills in English. So when we talk about what students have learned, well, I think that understanding and appreciation of different cultures, customs, traditions, empathy, cultural differences, the practice of the four skills in English, they were very fluent, very clear, and I perceived that they were very confident about expressing their thoughts and understanding everyone that was in the fair because we were divided in groups. My group was talking about Nahua's culture, but we had another ones that were talking about Totonacas, Chichimecas, Mexicas, and things like that. So I think that was very productive. What I have learned? Well, I learned that intercultural activities contribute to personal growth. They build confidence and create a good environment. I improve the use of technology because I have always used technology, but I think that in this lesson plan, I use it more. I was searching about opportunity areas so my students can develop their curiosity and critical thinking, because critical thinking is very important in our daily teaching. If we ask them to think critically, well, they will think out of the box, and I think that's our goal as teachers. To mix skills was a challenge, but it was a great challenge. I enjoyed it a lot. Mixing all the four skills in English, it's the best way to get a successful lesson plan. Theoretical concepts and how to apply them better. Well, sometimes we know the concept, but I think that when we develop these lesson plans, we start thinking about the theoretical concepts and how to apply them. How are we doing our job as teachers? So I think that learning about Vygotsky and focusing in structuralism and behaviorism, well, I think that as a teacher, I identify myself with this, and I really like when these theoretical concepts are applied in the classroom. For example, I remember that Vygotsky said that second language acquisition is reflected in studies emphasizing semiotic mediations, and this is very related with social interaction. So I think that when we make our students interact, well, they are learning. That is the best way to learn. Reaffirm my philosophy as a teacher. Well, I think that this was one of the best parts of the specialization. I think that Laswell's model is great because this model explains that communication is the transmission of a message with the effects as the result. So I think that when I was teaching, I was asking myself these 5 questions that Laswell said, like who created the message, what did they say, what channel did they use, to whom did they say it, what effect did it have on the receiver. So This method helped my students to acquire language faster and more rapidly. So I think that that was the best part of my teaching philosophy. I think that professional growth was here a lot. I think that as professors, our growth would be shown in the course of our teaching career, but it is clear that every year we should become different teachers with new skills and new techniques, and of course, with more technological tools. Some challenges that were faced here in this lesson plan, well, I think that lack of cultural depth. Sometimes these activities may only scratch the surface of different cultures, and then we realize that our students are not really aware of the culture, but we can change this if we make them research about the topic. Overcoming shyness or language anxiety. Well, it happens that we have really fluent students, but we also have these ones that feel a little bit shy or anxious when they're speaking English. So it's important to provide opportunities to expose them gradually with supporting them with language so they can overcome their inhibitions. So I think that this was a challenge, but we got through it. And as you can see, well, these are my references of this part. And finally, thank you for your attention. It was a pleasure to be here and talk about my final project. And this specialization was very good for me, and I think that it was great to learn more of me as being a teacher and to improve my teaching skills and provide my students a better understanding of English learning and English teaching for me. Thank you very much.